This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. Okay, occasionally I like to think about some sort of things that are a little bit different to maybe just gear or maybe just, the normal stuff. I think it's coming up on basically 10 years since I quit my job to play guitar and try to make a living doing music. And so I wanted to, in this video, kind of just talk about some of that, and maybe it would help either you understand some of my motivations more, if you're thinking, well, the only reason to do YouTube videos is for money and all that sort of stuff. Like, at this point, I do quite well from it, but it wasn't always the case, and I thought, maybe this video, open up some discussion around what it's actually like to try and be a guitarist that's just like an average sort of person or whatever, and why I quit a job, will I do it again, all of these sorts of questions that maybe if there's some younger people watching this or people that are thinking like, could I do this, then it'll give you some insight. Someone who ends up playing in their bedroom a lot of their time managed to achieve, or why, and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, basically my whole life, I started playing piano at 5, I started playing guitar at 8. The numbers on some of this are going to be a bit hazy, but like 2015 was when I quit working. I went to university and did commercial music at a university that I won't mention because I had no good experiences with it. The reason I went for commercial music was because I thought it was important. At the time, I didn't really necessarily have a hugely good roadmap for what I wanted to achieve. I just knew I wanted to play guitar a lot. And if I could make a living doing that, that would be what I wanted. And I thought commercial music gave me an opportunity to at least continue down a route of playing guitar whilst I waited for something else to happen. And this might be a good point, like about waiting for something to happen and thinking that just working on something in and of itself will necessarily produce results. I think that's a misconception that I had, and you probably actually just have to make things happen or try to, or do something versus, I'm just going to practice, get really good at sweep picking or whatever, and hoping that at some point that's going to translate to money. If it is money you're looking to do, otherwise you just get a real job and play guitar in your downtime. It's probably just as rewarding in a lot of ways. So yes, I went to uni. I didn't really learn much of anything at all. The only good thing about it was having Stuart Ryan there, who did guitar lessons one-on-one, which is the first time that I ever had any guitar lessons. But other than that, it was pretty trash, and yeah, I didn't really learn much of anything at all. And so after 2 years, the tuition fees were going to go up to, instead of being $3,000 a year, it was going to be like $9,000. And I thought, I don't really think this is actually getting me anything useful, so I'm just going to bounce. And I came back to live in this house actually with my parents, and I applied for a job at the local Morrison's that was opening. Morrison's in the UK is a supermarket, so I guess it's like a smaller version of Walmart, basically, for you American people. And yeah, so I worked there. I also got a job working at Killerton House, so I had kind of 2 jobs at the time. The entry-level jobs that you do take up, I've found at least, like a lot of your time. And especially if you're trying to work your way up towards something, probably at this time was quite unhappy with a lot of aspects of this. Like, it was a lot of time spent there. At the same time, in my downtime, I would either be playing guitar or I'd play like Crysis or Red Dead Redemption or GTA 5, I think. So I think that was basically what I would do, but I would record, and like all through uni and all through after I did my GCSEs, I got a PC and I would record stuff at home and like record covers, record original music. It was like heavier stuff. I was into like prog rock and Dream Theater and all that sort of stuff. So I've got like hours and hours and hours of this trash recorded, but it was what I would do. Like that was the process. Like I would just record, try and come up with stuff, and kept me out of mischief at least. So I worked at Morrison's for a few years, and I would do the occasional like acoustic duo gig with a guy that I met at the supermarket, James Sargent. You won't be watching this, but also I met Deep Impact at Morrison's. He'd be upset if I didn't mention it here, but yes, my good buddy Deep Impact, you see commenting sometimes very incendiary stuff. So I met him there. Yeah, I could earn like a bit of a living. I could make some savings. I didn't really have much of a life. I would just play guitar. Oh, it's Lenny's back. So yeah, basically my whole life, you know, I started playing piano at 5. I started playing guitar at 8. I stopped playing piano like at 12. Because I wanted to focus on guitar. So throughout all of this, and grew up playing in church, music has been a constant thing. But as I say, like during this time working in a supermarket, you're like super knackered quite a lot of the time. And yeah, so the music definitely took a backseat there. And I was thinking about, you know, trying to have a job, thinking about trying to earn more money, be comfortable, maybe one day be able to afford a house, all that sort of stuff, which I guess is totally normal. And then I got a job on the bullshit side and essentially helped to write business plans, and this involved quite a lot of travel, but it did mean that I had a little bit more money and B, a little bit more spare time because I worked from home. So I would do more of the gigs with my buddy, like acoustic stuff. Started going along to like open mic nights and stuff like that. Basically was going around a golf course with my cousin, and a friend of his texted him. They were having problems with their guitarist at the time, and it was this band called Seasfire that all this time I'd been recording sort of covers and, you know, pop covers I'd got a bit more into since uni, and so, you know, stuff that people sort of knew maybe around this time, like 1975 as well. Basically they said we need a guitarist, and sent me some tracks to try. I auditioned and I kind of joined that band. Now this band, Seasfire, had done some pretty cool things. They'd supported Bastille in the UK, if you've heard of them. It turns out that there was some issues with the manager. I joined at a time when the party was definitely ending. Our biggest kind of thing that he did when I was in the band was supported a band called the Ramona Flowers. Underneath us at the Thekla in Bristol, the band Idols played, and obviously probably a lot of you have heard of Idols. Anyway, so that band kind of fell apart. We did some kind of local gigs and some local festivals, nothing particularly big. Basically the band continued as another name, Boa, and we decided that 3 of us, keys player Joe Labanowski, James Sinclair the drummer, and me, would continue to do like songwriting, because we had this kind of thing where we'd write a lot of songs, then we would, you know, just put them up and release them. It was at this time that I kind of realised that there was something about releasing something regularly that enabled you to improve as you went along without overthinking everything. And this is a thread that's kind of continued throughout my life since then. I started posting on Instagram some stuff around here then as well. So that band, we actually got signed to Warner W Songs, I think was called the label, and got some really interesting, well not interesting, but some pretty good syncs. Basically the manager of our band that was working at a record label, so I think through kind of luck and stuff like that, some of our songs got used on some stuff like Royals, you know, The Only Way Is Essex, Made in Chelsea, that sort of bollocks. And also claim to fame, our music was used during a scene where a guy walked into a cafe and let off a bomb in the Amazon series Jack Ryan. Around this sort of time I was doing some open mic nights, and I've also started, there was a thing, basically Paddy from That Pedal Show asked me if because I've been going to these open mic nights with my buddy that I did kind of duo stuff with. People started to realise that I played electric guitar a little bit. He got offered to play Jesus Christ Superstar, an amateur dramatic kind of production, and he couldn't read music. So this is Paddy from That Pedal Show, the bass player, and he said, can you read music? Could you help me read this? There's 2 guitar parts. If you help me read this, we can go do this and get paid for a week of playing guitar, which was the first time really that I'd ever really been sort of paid like a healthy amount of money for a bit of work. Obviously, looking back on it now, it wasn't loads of money for the amount of work involved, but still it was like professional guitar playing, right, for money. I guess that would have been like November, December. And there was this other thing happening in the area called Soul Mondays, where some really kind of cool players, Bill Banwell, who ended up playing for Rag and Bone Man, Steve Down plays for Joss Stone still. Quite a cool like little scene of stuff happening, and I was getting involved in that a bit, but work would require me to travel and be like in hospitals around the UK for like 4 days, 5 days at a time, a lot of traveling and staying away, which is fine because I live with my parents, but at the same time it was now suddenly becoming the case that on Monday nights, for example, it would be that I'd want to be there to play this stuff, and I was starting to get offered like a few gigs. So it was at that point that I decided, right, I want to actually try this. So I quit my job then. The weird thing about it was that whilst I had the job was when I was actually able to do original music more. And this is maybe something that's kind of difficult to balance, because as soon as you make the music part like your career, the places where you can actually generate income like immediately and pay rent and stuff like that is through non-original music, like wedding gigs, function gigs, you know, where the original music is more kind of investing over time, and if you do make any money in it, it can take a long time to trickle through. So for instance, I told you about those syncs there, that money didn't come through for about a year, maybe, from when the sync actually happened to when we actually got paid, and like some of the royalties from getting played on Radio 1 and that sort of stuff. It just trickles through very slowly. Basically, I had to stop doing the original music because I got offered gigs, and it would be like, I need to do this gig, and there'll be like conflicts of interest where it's like, well, you could go drive to London for no money, maybe fuel if you're lucky, or you can play for this band here, doing just like a normal sort of wedding or whatever, but you'll get 150, 200 quid at the end of the night, and you can sort of actually earn some money that way. So that was the really tricky part, and I think that might be similar for a lot of people, you know, if you get into this scenario where it's like, well, I can earn money in the wedding scene, in the function scene, playing, you know, open mic nights and this sort of stuff, or running open mic nights, but a lot of what's involved there is not playing your own music anymore, not really writing, and the sorts of things that you have to do to earn money as a function guitarist is learn a lot of material that is not your own, and learn parts that have already been written, pop songs that are already written, and so necessarily the original music that is very difficult to kind of succeed in or make much money kind of has to take a bit of a back seat anyway, is what I found. So I started like practicing 7 hours a day, and also doing Instagram videos, putting them up, like showing the things that I was practicing, and those started to do okay as well. What I have learned about the function scene and the wedding scene is it's very much when you're the new person, you get quite a lot of gigs, and things start to sort of settle down into whatever state they might be in. I ended up playing keyboard in a band for 3 years, maybe, a 60s tribute band, because it was like, all right, I want some regular work. But once you get regular work, you necessarily get asked less to do like a lot of the cover gigs, because you're saying, I'm not free to do that. So it's a whole weird thing where it's like you have a season potentially where it's like, oh, you're like the new guy, but the new guy season maybe lasts 1 year, 2 years, and then it's just you're someone who's already known. So like, depending on where you live, you might have like a ceiling which is quite low and you find it quite quickly, versus if you lived in somewhere like London or Nashville or New York or wherever, or LA, you find your ceiling in other places, I think, quite quickly. This is what I've then learned, is that like over those sort of 10 years when I decided to go professional, the opportunities, the good ones, came quite quickly within that period of time. And then it starts to get quite repetitive and quite job-like, like any other job, I guess I would say. The gig fees have not really gone up much from 2015 to now, is my experience. And now I'm, you know, a 35-year-old guitarist versus a 25-year-old at the time. I think being 25, what I would say is that if you really want to get somewhere in this, then being a 25-year-old guitarist in, say, London, your ceiling is probably way higher than being a 25-year-old guitarist in Devon. Probably, I guess, or, you know, Nashville or LA. Being in one of those kind of big places, it'll probably be quite difficult to make enough money to live there initially, but I think that's probably the place to be, where the ceiling is higher and you don't end up, because basically I think you just end up settling into the pool of local musicians. And you think about like, how many people do you know that went on to do huge things, and where do they live? Then that kind of answers the question for you. So luckily I have this kind of YouTube channel, which is one of the things that I decided that since I wasn't necessarily, I wanted to be doing jazz gigs, I wasn't getting offered them, I would do like a regular thing. So Wednesdays I would upload a video of me practicing something, and then Sundays I would try and perform the thing. That gradually, just through whatever, ended up being that I found that I quite liked doing demos of some gear stuff. And then the Strymon Iridium came around. That was when I kind of thought, well, actually I can show some of this stuff in a bit more detail than you get in like a normal paid demo. And I was able to kind of put out more videos that would answer specific questions. And it was then that I decided, actually, this is something I really enjoy doing. Making a piece of music every single day kind of suited me really nicely, like building that as a habit. And then sort of it nicely tails in with like, well, I could demo, you know, a piece of gear or a patch or whatever. And that was kind of how this has ended up being something I decided that I would do every single day, much like you would, I guess, any other job. So that's how I ended up here. And then lockdown really solidified that that was a good move, because things that I had been doing to rely on for income just went away. But I was still able to play music every single day and guitar every single day via YouTube. And things kind of grew from there, and that's basically how things have stayed the same. Back in 2019 I was probably doing 2 videos every day, sometimes 3, and then live streaming more as well. Once Elodie was first born, I kind of went down to maybe 1 video a day. Things have settled back a bit. I kind of just do 2 videos as well because it feels right most days. At some point I guess that won't be the case anymore, but for right now I quite like being able to just play guitar, put all my energy into this. I still gig when the offers come in, like the weekend through summer I'll be busy. I just had a gig on Saturday. I do really enjoy playing live still. After COVID, it was like my channel kind of took over from that. Now it suits me much better to be at home looking after the kid, helping out and watching her grow up. So that's kind of the thing now. And I get companies that want to work on stuff, and that's nice when they do, but I'll be making videos anyway. I really like playing guitar, and I think over time, if I look back at further videos, I do think I've got slightly better at doing it. I do think it at least keeps my hands moving, so I don't ever have a day off, so I don't feel too much decline, whereas I don't get much practice time anymore, but I am still at least getting to play guitar and stuff like that. So that's basically how I got here. I quit a real job 10 years ago. Luckily it worked out, not in a way that I would have planned, but I think playing home in my bedroom actually suits me quite a lot better than the idea of touring. One cool thing that happened in a very long time ago now, I got asked to play on the keyboard player from Marillion, Mark Kelly's Marathon. That's out there if you wanted to listen to that. few people have, but you know, it's few and far between big opportunities that have come my way. But if you maybe live in a bigger city, is where you get some cooler opportunities. So that'd be my advice to myself at 25 years old. If you're interested in the original music side of things, I would encourage you strongly to keep a job alongside that, because once you start making money like in these bits of work that are not original music based, the money is going to be a necessity, and that will push out quite a lot of the original music stuff that really doesn't make much money anyway. It depends. Yeah, I think the ideal place to be in would be playing guitar for someone making original music. So if you can get into like the pop music scene, then that's a way to blend the two. If you can do that, you'd be quite lucky. But you know, just trying to slog away at your own original music and get that out there, I think is a real task. It takes a lot of dedication and a lot of risk. I don't know. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. And I am apologetic for the amount of videos that I make, but still, I think it's quite a good habit for me personally. And hopefully, when you do drop in, you get a little something out of them sometimes. I hope. It's been fun for me at least. And yeah, I met my wife through these gigs that I first did when I quit my job, you know, at the Sorry Head on a Soul Mondays. I've met a lot of my good friends doing it, and I still love playing guitar. I love making videos and playing guitar every single day. So yeah, that's why I do it.